waiver wire pickups, potential dudes that can help you and your struggling fantasy football team.
Total opposite of last week, right? Last week it was just packed with good options, and this week is
kind of hard.
If you need one of these guys, don't count on too much.
Don't count on too much. Let's see here. Let's do. I'm trying to find. The iPad looks different than the phone. I'm trying to find the scoring, the best scores.
Oh, you're on the app.
Yep. Oh wow, that dude.
On the iPad, it's usually a little better, I think.
Deontay Spencer got -2 points, so if you started him...
Deontay Spencer? I don't even know who that is.
I didn't know who he was until he just pulled up.
He sounds like a defensive player.
All right, so the first guy I want to talk about today is Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I'm not sure if I said his name correct, but he had 12...
I think it was close.
Yeah, it felt pretty close. He had 12 targets this past week. Caught 10 of them for a touchdown and 86 yards. Yep. Detroit Lions had their first win on the season, and it was because this guy caught a touchdown in the last 5 seconds of the game.
Yeah, in my opinion, this guy is usually the most interesting waiver wire guy this week because he's a rookie who's been getting integrated into this offense. He's gotten a decent amount of target share really the whole year.
Yeah.
It's just that Jared Goff is bad, and
he's real bad.
I don't know if they're going to improve and keep getting him involved, but usually rookies second half of the year take quite a big jump from the first half of the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a guy that has some talent, and maybe he starts a connection, gets something going. He's worth a flyer, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is his first real week where he produced. Weeks prior, he had 6 targets, but he's been getting at least 5 fantasy points a week.
He's easily the top targeted player on that team.
Yeah.
Whatever that's worth, it's still the Lions.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume that they're gonna keep passing the ball a lot, and he seems like the dude that they're going to focus on.
Yeah.
I gotta fix the iPad real quick.
Yeah, he's at least the number one on that team. It's just determining what that's worth. What happened?
Just super behind.
Oh, I see. It's catching up.
But it's catching up now.
Weird. Why does it do that?
I don't know. But it's catching up. It's almost there. I'll just leave it.
It'll catch up.
It'll catch up.
But yeah, next guy on our list is Russel Gage, right? And he's close to St. Brown in my opinion because he's kind of a similar type of player. He's the number one on his team, right?
Right.
It's just
just
determining what that's really worth on a not very good team and a mediocre talent of a player.
I actually liked Russell Gage early on in the season, but then he kept on. Or once we found out that Calvin Ridley was out, I thought that he'd be a lot more involved.
But he really hasn't been.
He hasn't been. No, he's been pretty disappointing. Except for the last 2 weeks. I mean, the last 2 weeks he had 15.2 points against Jacksonville in Week 12, 7 targets, 6 receptions, and then in Tampa Bay it's 12 targets, 11 receptions, 130 yards for 16.5 fantasy points. Only 25% owned across ESPN leagues. And St. Brown, I forgot to say this, he was only 6.5% owned.
How owned is Gage?
Gage is 25.2.
So a little higher, but they're both still pretty low. They're both pretty widely available. Which one do you prefer?
I think I'd probably...
Let's say you have to start someone next week. Which one do you prefer?
Let's see here. Gage is playing Carolina, and St. Brown is playing Denver. I'd probably go with Gage.
Yeah, Gage is probably better play next week. I don't trust Detroit against Denver very much.
No.
I definitely don't trust Jared Goff.
No, I don't trust Jared Goff.
Matt Ryan is certainly better than Jared Goff.
He is, but he still sucks.
Yeah.
Because he can't get the ball to Kyle Pitts.
That's what's interesting about Gage is he pretty significantly out-targeted Kyle Pitts the last couple weeks.
He absolutely did.
And I don't know if that is a trend that's going to continue or not, but if it is, maybe Gage is going to be a guy worth having for your fantasy playoffs. I don't know.
Yeah, especially if you're hurting a wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, he got 7 targets last week, caught 4 of them, and he almost had a touchdown. But Gage was definitely out-targeting or getting more targets than Pitts was.
Is Kyle Pitts still a top 5 tight end in your opinion rest of the year?
I feel like he's got to get there at some point. I mean, he looked very good. He had a touchdown, or he would have had a touchdown if he would have kept his feet from going out of bounds. So that would have been like a 13, 14-point fantasy day.
So you think he's top 5?
I don't know. I don't know if he's top 5 because he just is not doing what anyone thought he'd be doing. He had those 2 weeks where he scored 20 points consecutively, and then everything past that's been like basically nothing.
Let's see real quick where we think he's at. Because at the beginning of the year, he was probably about top 5, right?
Yeah.
And right now, so Kelsey's ahead of him, right?
Yep.
Kittle.
Let's see here. Do you want to do a scoring overview?
Yeah, if you want to look at it. I was just going to see how many players we can list that we like better than him.
Okay.
Kelsey and Kittle for sure, right?
Yep.
What about Gronk?
I think so, yeah.
Gronk over Pitts at this point.
Yep.
Mark Andrews?
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, I don't love Mark Andrews by any means, but I think I prefer him to Pitts for the last 3 weeks of the year, 3 or 4 weeks.
I mean, probably. But, I mean, he's actually been more consistent than I remembered, at least the last few weeks. But it seems like he's the kind of guy that has like a 5-point week and then a 20-point week. And you
Well,
never
it's actually
know.
been Pitts this year.
Yeah, and it's been Pitts. No. There's no up and downs. It's just straight down for 7 weeks for Pitts.
What about Darren Waller?
Yeah, I'd go with Darren Waller.
Okay, so that's at least 5 if we go Andrews. TJ Hawkinson?
I feel like they're about the same.
I'd go Pitts.
Yeah, I'd go Pitts.
Because Hawkinson, I mean, he seems like a relatively safer play. Like, he's probably only going to give you 8 or 9 points.
Right.
But his ceiling just doesn't seem to exist because he plays for the Lions.
Yeah, because Jared Goff is throwing to him.
What about Dawson Knox?
Probably Pitts.
I think I'd take Knox.
Really?
I just think Knox is probably going to get 3 or 4 more touchdowns this year.
What did he score this week? Or was he on a bye?
They played him.
Oh,
they
play
tonight.
They
play
play
tonight.
That's right.
But he just gets a ton of red zone targets, and that team's good. They're going to be in the red zone a lot.
Yeah.
I'd probably take Knox over Pitts the rest of the year.
I think I'd probably take Pitts because I still feel like his best gains are ahead of him. I mean, Week 14's got Carolina. Week 15, San Francisco, not the greatest. But Week 16, Detroit. And then, well, Week 17 is Buffalo, so that's not that exciting.
Yeah.
But that's exciting for Knox.
But after that, you gotta like Pitts better than everyone else at this point.
Yeah.
Actually, what about Dallas Goedert? That's an interesting one. He had a good game.
He had a great week.
He had a great week.
The best or the highest scoring tight. Oh no, he's not actually. George Kittle.
Oh yeah, George Kittle
absolutely
went way
killed
off.
it.
Yep.
Kittle
and Goddard were the top 2 tight ends.
Yeah, Goddard and Kittle were the top in the week. Goddard looked really good. He got 6 targets, caught all of them, 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. If Gardner Minshew keeps that job, which do you think Hurts is in a situation now where he will possibly lose his job to Gardner Minshew?
I think they're on bye next week, so he'll have
Right.
2 weeks. Assuming he is fully healthy in 2 weeks, I think they'll go back to him.
You think they'll go back to Hurts?
I think they'll have a short leash. If he goes out and has a bad first half, I think they'll bench him for Minshew.
I mean, the team was so much more fun and electric or fun to watch and electric, and they were actually kind of scary in the air. With Hurts, it's just let's just hope he doesn't run, and that's
still
it.
Been winning games with him.
Yeah, but it's been boring football.
Yeah, sometimes.
And he's bad. Hurts is bad. Hurts is bad at football. I feel like
I still think Hurts is pretty good.
Why do you think he's good? What has Hurts done other than run?
Well, that's still part of winning the game. He's good at that. He's better than almost everyone in the league at that. And he can still pass the ball. He has some games where he throws bad passes, but he has some games where he throws some great passes too.
So since week 6, he's only had 1 week where he threw over 200 yards.
That's also sometimes just game script dependent. Like, they get up a lot early in the game, and then he doesn't need to throw because he can always run for some yards, and they're just not in a passing mentality in that game.
Because he's bad at passing. They don't want to pass.
Well, they'd rather have him run if they can. He's better at that. I would not deny that.
But he's a quarterback. Why don't you just make him a running back then if that's what he's going to do?
I still think he's better than Minshew, but if he's out, I like Minshew quite a bit.
I do too. Minshew looked really, really good. He threw 12 passes.
At halftime, Minshew had like over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he
did nothing in the second half. But that's just the same thing Hurts has been having the problem with is just game script. They did not pass the ball at all in the second half.
He didn't have an incompletion, I think, until his 15th attempt.
Yeah.
It was, and his passer rating was above 130. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had a near perfect passer rating, Gardner Minshew.
I like Minshew, man. When he was in Jacksonville, I liked him. Jacksonville doesn't make a lot of good decisions, but I think they could have easily held on to Minshew and built other places on that team to make their team better.
Yeah. Do you think that if you have Hurts, you need to pick up Gardner Minshew as a safety?
I think that's a great move. I have a league, our main league, where I have been riding Hurts all year, and I picked up Minshew as soon as I saw there was a chance he might not play, because I think if Hurts is out, you can slide Minshew in, and he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And even like I said, they're on bye next week, but in 2 weeks, if Hurts goes out and gets off to a rough start, they might bench him. That's been talked about all year.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on the hot seat at this point.
Which makes sense because he's bad at football. He's Gardner Minshew is only
he's still the fifth best fantasy quarterback in the league.
But that's you put these pretty numbers on top of a bad quarterback. He's still a bad quarterback. There's 1 week where he had 100 passing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
That was
why
Hurts.
would you pass if you can just rush for 3 touchdowns? Running is safer than passing.
It makes the other team. It makes it easy for the other team to beat you if they know that the only thing you can do is run. Which is, what's their record? Do you know what the record is?
6-6 or 7-6. They're in that middle ground range. I'm not sure.
But Gardner Minshew is only 5.9% owned across ESPN leagues. If you're hurting a quarterback and you need a backup, I feel like Gardner Minshew has a likely scenario of actually getting the starting job there before the end of the season.
Yeah, and we talked about Goddard. I think Goddard would benefit a lot from having Minshew, right?
Right.
Because
absolutely, 100%. Way more excited about Goddard with
I still think
than
Goddard's the best receiver on that team. Devontae Smith is good too, but I think Goddard's the number 1 receiver on that team.
Yeah.
And with Minshew throwing the ball, I think that's a very valuable position.
Absolutely.
He likes to throw to tight ends. He threw to tight ends all the time in Jacksonville.
Yeah. And even though Devontae Smith, he only got 2 targets, I think, in the past week.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't very involved, I'm still more excited about him with Minshew at quarterback than I am with Hurts, because they have to pass the ball more because it's Minshew. Minshew's not known for running.
The one thing with Smith for Jalen Hurts is that Hurts is willing to throw the ball down the field to Devontae Smith. And he's pretty good at that, actually.
He had 2 weeks where he did all right at that.
They don't do it all the time, but he throws a pretty good deep ball. And I don't think that's quite Minshew's game. He's more of that mid-range passing.
I think the 2 passes, the 2 touchdowns that he threw to Goddard were kind of long. They were kind of down the field.
Like a lot of air yards?
Yeah,
or he caught it 15
yards
and then ran a lot after that?
I know at least one of them was
really?
A lot of air yards. We got a question here. What's up, fellas? I'm down 20 half PPR. Who should I flex, Stevenson or Myers? Assuming he's got a game tonight and he's down 20 points. He needs 20 points. And this is Stephen Drakes. Who do you like more?
Ramondre Stevenson or Jacoby Myers?
Yeah.
You need 20 points. I would go with Stevenson. Because Jacoby Myers is great at getting 10 points, but you don't need 10 points.
He's great at getting 10 points and not knowing where the end zone is.
Yep. But Ramondre Stevenson, we've seen that he has high upside. And if New England were to go out there today and feature him, which who knows if they will or will not, but there's at least a chance that could happen, he could put up more than 20 points.
If Bourne is on your waiver wire list, I'd pick him up. And
you play Bourne over Stevenson?
I would play Bourne over Myers at least.
It was Stevenson 20 points maybe, but I would play Stevenson over both.
Is Stevenson the starter today, or he's going to share work with
him and Harris?
Harris,
yeah. Who knows? It's still New England, so 1 week they go out and feature one guy. 1 week they feature the next guy. Next week they split 50-50. You never know what you're going to get.
Right, and they're playing Buffalo too. I feel like they're pretty good against the run, aren't they?
Well, Jonathan Taylor had 5 rushing touchdowns against him.
Right, but that's Jonathan Taylor.
I'm just saying you can run on him.
You can run on him.
It's not a great matchup, but it's not a good matchup for Myers either.
It's not a great match. I feel like there's going to be more yards in the air today than there are going to be on the ground against Buffalo. I'd have to pick Myers, and that's...
You'd pick Myers?
Yeah, because
I thought you were going to say Bourne.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I mean, if he's on the waiver wire, I'd pick Bourne for sure.
Bourne's probably on the waiver wire.
He's their down the field target who has gotten 20 points more than once.
It's a half PPR. Look at our scoring and see how many times Jacoby Myers has scored 20 points this year. I bet it's 0.
Let me see here. Yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure it's 0. Let me see. He has never scored 20 points. The most points he scored was 13.2. Bourne has done it twice, I think.
Yeah. So I
in
can
the last 3 weeks.
going with Bourne over Myers.
Yeah, I'd go with if Bourne's on if Bourne's on the waiver wires, I'd pick him up.
But I would go with Stevenson.
I would. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel like you're gonna get 4 points from Stevenson tonight.
Who cares if you get 4 and 19? They're both a loss. He needs 20.
Yeah, so Bourne is the way to go.
I think Stevenson is.
I don't think so.
The one time that Stevenson got featured, how many points did he score?
He's not featured today.
He could be. We don't know.
Damian Harris is not injured. Let me see.
Yeah, but they could still go with Stevenson. New England does that kind of stuff all the time.
Last week, Harris got 11 rushing attempts, 40 yards, 1 touchdown, and then Stevenson got 9 40 yards and no touchdowns. Does he get the targets? He doesn't even get any targets. Damian Harris gets the targets.
No, Stevenson's a better pass catcher.
Oh, well, they both got 1 target last week, so I guess anything could happen, but I'd feel the most confident going with Bourne if he's on your waiver wire. And if he isn't, I don't know. Maybe Myers. I'd probably have to go with Myers because
Myers never scored 20 points in his career.
It hasn't happened yet. But who's to say it can't happen today?
It could.
I feel like it's more likely than either of those running backs.
We know for a fact the chances are very low.
Yeah, the chances are low. It doesn't look good for 20 points from Jacoby Myers. Okay. Let's see here. We talked about Gardner Minshew, who is a stud and is better than Hurst. Now let's talk about another quarterback, Taysom Hill, who is another quarterback that just runs and can't throw. But I like him a little bit better.
You like him better than Hurts?
I do like him better than Hurts because this is his first start in the year. He already scored he threw 264 yards.
That's
2 touchdowns.
They were losing by so much.
He still got to 200. That's one more time than Hurts has in the last 7 weeks. And then he rushed 11 times for 101 yards.
Yeah.
So
he's a very safe play.
He's a pretty safe play. He's only 35.9% owned across ESPN leagues. It's about to be the Taysom Hill show. He did just have surgery on his hand.
That's true. That he had like the same kind of injury Russell Wilson had, right?
Yeah.
Or close.
It says here it was not as severe as Russell Wilson's.
Yeah, that's what I read.
So it's not a big deal, and plus he still has his legs.
Yeah, that's all he needs anyways.
That's all he needs. So it might be less yards in the air, but overall, I feel like this is like a great fantasy football quarterback because he's gonna get you points in multiple ways.
Yeah, great play. If you have Jalen Hurts, would you pick up Minshew over Hill?
Yes, just for security reasons. Yeah. But if I was just picking between Minshew and Hill, I'd probably pick Hill. Especially if it's a keeper league. If there's like, and especially because I feel like it'd probably get more.
Do you like Hill better than Minshew?
Yeah, I do.
Then why don't you just pick up Hill as security for Hurts?
If
you Hurts
can.
Is out, you still got Hill.
Right. And Hill has some pretty good matchups. The Jets next week, Tampa Bay, Miami, Carolina.
Jets are a great one. He might run for 100 yards again, probably.
Probably. He's probably a pretty good person to pick up if you're in the fantasy playoffs and you don't have that great of a quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'd pick him up over Minshew.
Yeah. I just would pick up Minshew just because you're probably going to want – if you had Hurts, you're probably going to want to play him over Hill, right?
You'd play Hurts over Hill. Yeah, I'd play Hurts over Hill.
So
but we're saying you're picking up a backup
right,
just in case Hurts goes out. So it's whoever you like better, Hill or Minshew.
I guess so. I like Taysom Hill a little bit better. You could just do that, but I mean, yeah.
Also,
but I do like
Philadelphia's on bye next week, so you might need a different quarterback such as Taysom Hill.
Right. But I like him a lot, and he signed a 4-year contract with the Saints, so he's not going anywhere for a long time. It was like what, $70 million or $40 million guaranteed, $70 million with.
Yeah, do you think they're going to start the year off with him at quarterback next year?
They must. I mean, they've got to. They paid him a bunch of money. Why would
That's
they
what
pay
it
him?
Seems like.
Yeah. Why
That's
would they pay him a bunch of money?
Winston, he is a free agent next year, so probably going to move on from him.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
They weren't that good. He was the same Jameis Winston he's always been.
Yeah.
Good some weeks, bad other weeks.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they're going with Taysom Hill for the foreseeable future.
Good. Definitely a good fantasy play.
Yep.
Don't watch the game because he looks kind of ugly when he plays sometimes. But
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, he threw like 4 interceptions last week.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Let me see. It was a lot.
It was at least 4. It might have been 5. I think it was 4 though.
Cancel. Let's see here.
But anybody that can throw 4 interceptions and still put up that many fantasy points, you want to start them because that's basically their floor. Like they're not going to throw more interceptions than that.
Let's see here. Where did I lost this? Let me find Brett. I want to see how many interceptions he had. He had 4.
4, yeah.
So that was minus 8 points. Just imagine the points he would have had if he hadn't got negative 8 points from those interceptions. That'd be 35 points on his first
Probably
start.
would have added 10 points because less interceptions, probably would have got a few more yards.
Oh, yeah. All right, so our next person we're going to talk about is Tevin Coleman. How are you feeling about Tevin Coleman, Josiah?
I don't love Tevin Coleman, but we were looking for a running back to put on this waiver wire list, and there are very few good options this week.
Not a lot.
And Tevin Coleman was the one that I chose to be the top one. At least he is the number 1 guy there for the Jets. He's probably going to get 10 to 15 carries next week. He might get a touchdown. So if you're scrambling at running back, say you got Jonathan Taylor on bye and you got to start someone, maybe you go Tevin Coleman.
Maybe he got what was it? He got 11 rushing attempts, 58 yards, 9.2 fantasy points, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 19 yards. So he does
not bad. 15 touches total.
15 touches total. He's 42% owned across ESPN leagues. If you're desperate, I'd pick him up, but don't be too excited about it because I certainly would not be. Actually, if you have to start him, I would feel sad about it.
I would feel sad for you.
because he's probably one of the best running backs that are available, at least in the waiver wire. What's up, man? Yep, doing it. Okay. Tevin Coleman.
Yep. I mean, what are the other running back options? We talked about a few of them, I think. Rex Burkhead wouldn't be that excited Coleman
about him
a little
either.
better than Burkhead.
Absolutely, because Houston's just bad at everything.
We know how much you like Kenneth Gainwell. He had a touchdown last week.
Right. Gainwell is not really a running back. He's a wide receiver with a running back tag on him.
Yep.
Because he never runs the ball whenever they're ahead. He's always the dude that comes in and catches short passes when they're running.
Gainwell could actually be a little interesting because Sanders got hurt at the end of the game.
He did. That's true.
I don't know how serious that was, but if he's out, all they got left is Gainwell, right?
They've got Boston Scott.
Well, he was hurt. He didn't play at all last week.
It doesn't say that he's hurt. He had COVID, so he won't be hurt next week or whenever they come back from a bye.
What if he doesn't? Oh, they're on bye. That's true. So he'll be good by then.
Yeah, because Jordan Howard's out there. I think
Jordan Howard's hurt, or I don't know.
Yeah, he's not playing right now. So I mean, Boston Scott would be the dude I think there, and Gainwell. I mean, we've seen this before. Miles Sanders went out early in the season. We all thought Gainwell would be the guy. He wasn't. In fact, I think he put up.
If they have someone else, they will use someone else.
yeah.
I was just thinking they might be out of options. Might have to go with them.
If Seattle decides to drop Adrian Peterson, he'll probably
pick him up.
In Philadelphia.
And then Gainwell will be inactive.
Yeah.
That happened to him like 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So I don't feel. I mean, Gainwell is great if you think game strip's going to be in his favor, as in like they're going to drop the ball off to him a lot and do lots of passing.
He's good if every single other running back on the team got hurt. Then he would be worth picking up.
Yeah, if he's the only option.
Yeah.
Then this is a solid.
But that's
pickup.
true for any running back in the league.
So yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's our waiver wires. The waiver wires are kind of thin this week.
Yep, not as good as last week, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.